Yo, I'm Kavam,
Yo, I'm Rash.
and welcome to the Before Our Friends Die podcast on the akhi&saltfish digital network. This is the platform where we have the conversations we want to have before we leave this planet.
With that in mind, let's go.
Let's go. Rachel,
What are you telling me, man?
listen, I'm good. I'm really excited, because this is a episode that has been in the works for a couple months now. I saw an Instagram post shared by a friend of mine, and the account was Mindful Black Dad. Instantly, now we have no children, yeah?
Yeah.
We have no children. But instantly I thought that's a really interesting topic, because the default in society that we live in is dad is whiteness, right? And I think even within
You
being
see
a
it
black
everywhere,
dad,
don't you?
there's stereotypes attached, isn't there? So to be a mindful black dad was like, okay, that's new to me. That's new on my field. Let me explore a little bit more. And thankfully, so I DM'd Eli, the guy who created Mindful Black Dad, and he agreed to come and join us today and talk about his journey. So welcome, Eli.
Is it Eli or Ellie?
Bro, I'm sorry. No, I'm terrible. I'm terrible.
I thought it was me. Then I was
Sure.
bugging out. Then
Listen,
I was like, wait, hold on.
And I
That's
did
how you
what
say
I
his
normally
name.
do, which is, it's fine, I'll just carry on.
Yeah,
do you know what just happened?
What?
Because I heard Eli 3 times earlier.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You just kept that in your head.
Ellie, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
No worries, no problem.
There's a lesson for you. If you get someone's name wrong, just say sorry and
Yeah,
all
I
is
was
well.
just sitting there like, wait, hold on a minute. Are you sure? Nah. Come on.
How embarrassing. But nevertheless, I'll be more mindful moving on. Ellie, thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. And thanks for being so humble there as I got your name wrong. So I apologize there.
Of course.
You're
It's
lucky
a
he's on
pleasure.
Yeah.
Honour and pleasure.
So let's get to it. So Rachel, like I say, when I say mindful black dad, what comes to your mind?
What comes to my mind? I would say, well, it's a weird one, I guess. But I mean, someone who's there for the kids. I've seen some of the posts that you put up as well. Because a lot of, like, everyone has a relationship with their dad. But I feel like after seeing your post, it seems like you're very close, proper role model to your kids from the posts I've seen and all the stuff you wrote up and your videos. Like, I want to get onto a topic later on about the book, that the color book.
Yeah.
I want to really get into that one after. But yeah, how about yourself?
So for me, when I hear mindful black dad, I think there's a reason for this. There's a problem you're solving here. I don't know what that problem is. I'm going to ask you what that is. But I feel like you noticed the gap in the market of, like, I wouldn't know, aside from my own dad, and I wouldn't know who to ask about being a dad to a black child. Like, for me, that's a really huge gap in the market. So to you, Ellie, what is mindful black dad?
Do you know, no one's asked me that question before, and I'm glad you've asked that. Kind of like what Rash said there. Mindful black dad is, I think, what I had in mind when I came up with the title was, and echoing what you said there as well, Kavan, about parenting being not even just fatherhood. I'd say just parenting, full stop, being generally. Well, it's certainly not generally seen as a black thing, an African Caribbean thing, or whatever you want to call it. Certainly something that me growing up, I don't really recall having many conversations with anyone about parenting until I'm well over probably 30 years old. And having experienced what I experienced over the last 5 years since I became a father, and especially the pandemic era of that, the pandemic part of that, I feel like the pandemic and the lockdown really we were just all put into a pressure cooker. Everyone was, but particularly parents with young children, actually, parents of any age children. It was like, okay, you might have been able to kind of dance around and sort of like, avoid confronting certain things with regard to how you parent and how you think about parenting. But lockdown was like, nope, it's on. It's on 24/7. You're a parent all day, every day.
Yeah.
And I feel like I, through that period, particularly the last 2 years, learned a lot about myself, how I think of parenting, how I think of life, what my kind of values are with regard to marriage, relationships, the future, and all that kind of stuff. And I got to a point where I was like, yeah, do you know what? I'm a content creator anyway. I've got form in that regards, going back a long time with regard to YouTube in particular. But I just felt like, actually, do you know what? Now I think my life is going to be all about parenting for the next 10 years is going to be predominantly about being a dad. And I thought, let me be a figurehead. Let me be a voice for people like me, black men like me, who are looking to raise their children as best as they can, and also hopefully help to create or join into a community of black fathers out there who are doing this kind of thing, and hopefully in doing so put out some helpful content that will help other dads, parents, children in their lives as well. So very round, long-winded way of answering it, but that's kind of what comes to mind when you ask me what is mindful black dad.
So when you talk about you're trying to help other black male parents raise black children, is that something that you noticed you couldn't see? You couldn't see those. You can. What are the questions what I'm getting at, I suppose, is what are the questions you had when you had your first child? What are the questions you had that you just couldn't find the answers to? You had to figure them out yourself. Yeah.
Every single thing. And it's not even from the birth, it's from even pregnancy. You get sort of thrown into this world where everything is new. It's brand new. Every single thing is a brand new thing. You're having all these interactions with the hospital, with nurses, with consultants and this, that, and the other. So for example, with my firstborn, the hospital we went to, good hospital, great. I have no, beef with them at all, but we very much felt like we were kind of pressured into having a C-section, a cesarean section. Because what was it again? They were saying they were saying, oh, the child's massive. This child is in so with pregnancy, they use this language of percentile. They use that percentile language. Oh yeah, they're in the 90th percentile or whatever like that. And they were saying, they were telling us like, after in the scans, they were saying this child is going to be enormous. So we're thinking, Lord, this is going to be some huge giant of a baby. And they were basically saying, I mean, you could do a natural birth, but if you do, basically the child could break their shoulder while they're trying to get out, and that's really dangerous and blah, blah, blah. And it could be very traumatic and all that sort of stuff. And so we kind of felt pushed into having a C-section. Once it was all, once he was born C-section, he was fine. He's not that big. And he wasn't that big. He was a fairly large child, but not huge. But it was a lesson in how, because we didn't really know anyone who we could ask about this sort of stuff. That nuance of detail to say, okay, our child's, we're being told that our child's in the 90th percentile and it's really dangerous to give birth.
Yeah.
What do you think? There's a lot of like niche information that while you're also going through all the emotion and the experience of pregnancy, it has an impact obviously on the mother in particular, the hormones, but it certainly has an impact on the father as well. And that's one of the things I kind of realized, was that the information that is out there is geared towards mothers, which is great and fine. They're the ones who have this child in their bellies, but there's very little out there with regard to fathers. Another thing as well, just quickly, is that after the child was born, my first child was born, and mum's on maternity leave. She's meeting all these friends through antenatal classes and
so true.
Play groups and all this sort of stuff because she's on mat leave, and it's great. Built up a nice kind of gang of friends and all that sort of stuff. Me now, particularly in our case, we moved out of London just before our first child, so I didn't know anyone around here, and literally it was like my whole life was basically commuting to London to work, coming back, doing baby stuff, going to bed, and so I just felt like I didn't have anyone around me at all to really talk to until much later when I started to meet a few different people. So it's just every single part of parenting, in the beginning, I felt like there was a dearth of information, particularly relevant to fathers, particularly relevant to what's our role in all of this. And it just goes on and on. Every stage, every year that, every developmental stage that our children come to, it's like, okay, what's this all about? How does this all work? Picking schools. Like, okay, how do we pick schools? What's a good school? I don't know.
Yeah.
Been a while since I was last in a school. How do you pick good schools? You know.
That's a really good point. Literally today I was at a family meal, and my nephew, he's 10 years old, so he's on that cusp now of going up to big school, right? And I'm hearing my sister talk about some of the schools she's choosing, and around the table, yeah, that's a good school, because that was a good school 10 years ago, and we know that it has a reputation as a good school. But I work at a university, and we often get insights into how schools are going, because obviously that's a feeder system into university. And some of the schools with the good reputations aren't necessarily the good schools anymore. Those things change, but unless you are really in it, and again, you have someone to ask those questions to, you may just go with whoever has the best reputation. And sometimes that reputation isn't always founded. So it's really interesting. And circling mentioned there, you know, a lot of the support being geared towards the mother, particularly for yourself moving to a new area, is what Mindful Black Dad is then. Is it about a community as well, and building that community of fellow black fathers, either locally, nationally, etc., trying to have a shoulder to lean on, so to speak?
Yeah, it's largely a lot of it is that, because, and that's generally with me and, you know, putting out content on YouTube. The main first priority, which is probably why I've never like blown up and like, you know, been able to quit and live off YouTube, is that my main my main priority has generally been, I just want to connect with, you know, like-minded people. It's very cliche, but basically that's the main thing that I want to do. I want to connect with like-minded people, and particularly with Mindful Black Dad, because it's not a fad. You know, being a dad is not a fad. Yeah.
Listen, you got a little career as a rapper there. If we can pivot a little bit, you know what I mean?
It's not something that, it's not like I don't know, I've done certain things, political kind of stuff, or, you know, certain cultural things, focused on maybe some religious topics before. And those things can come and go. You could be really interested in something for, you know, 6 months, a year maybe, and then like, you know, get a bit tired of it and move on. Being a dad is something, that's it. You're a dad forever now. It's not going away. You can opt out and just decide to just leave and just live your own life. But, you know, that's not me. So what am I saying? I think it made a lot of sense for me to do this, because it was helping me. It helps me as much as it's going to help anybody else, because I can express, get off my chest what's on my mind. The comments that I get on videos and on, you know, Instagram are just so enlightening and so heartwarming and, you know, inspiring as well, just in terms of people bringing up good things, important things, you know, important topics and subjects. And I'm always conscious that, you know, we are in the UK here, and we're a tiny proportion of the population here in the UK, and even tinier proportion of the population of the world. The black fatherhood stuff that is out there generally, like a lot of the black anything really that's out there, black political stuff, black whatever it might be, tends to be US based.
That's so true, you know.
So it's a tiny little niche, you know, like there's not many other black parents, dads who are talking on the internet kind of thing. And so it felt right. It worked. It was like, this is it. I'm a dad. I'm always going to be a dad. It's natural. I'm just talking about what I'm living. You know, my life is all about. And hopefully in that, like I say, we can bring together and learn from each other.
Yeah. So within that, I've got a comment and a question then, I suppose. So you mentioned about, you know, not many black dads in the UK putting out content. And I think you're right, first of all. And I think one of the dangers with that is if we don't create our own narrative, it gets made for us. And we've seen that a lot in terms of the perceptions of black parenthood. And I think you're doing a great job at, you know, shifting those myths. Even by being mindful is something that stereotypically wouldn't be associated with black parenthood. And I think you're doing a great job in shifting that narrative. So thank you, first of all.
Thank you.
Question is, who is Mindful Black Dad then? And moreover, I suppose, who is Ellie? You take us to the start. Take us to the start to where you are now.
Who am I? I won't do a beanie man there, but yeah, who am I? So I'm Ellie. I've been. What am I? I'm in my 40s, and I've been doing I've been content creating for about 15 years now, roughly, which is scary. But the first YouTube video I made was in 2007.
How old are you, Kavan?
2007, I would have been 10.
10, 11, yeah.
Oh, Lord. Yeah. Oh, God, I'm so old. So yeah, that's me. I was born in East Africa, born in Kenya. And my parents and my brothers all came here. I'm the last born of 4 boys, actually.
Yeah.
So we came to this country in the 80s. And I've been growing up. I'm a Londoner. I grew up in Hackney, first of all, Clapton, then moved to Leighton. Later on, went to uni in Birmingham, University of Birmingham, stayed in Birmingham for 6 years, loved it. Great city, actually, overall. Studied media and cultural studies, by the way. That's probably important because then, you know, for the rest of my life, I've not been working in media and cultural studies, but I've always been someone that I think about the world we live in, the society we live in. I've always been, certainly since my, teens, I've always been very racially conscious. Mainly because growing up, my parents were not racially conscious. They were just like, and a lot of African parents do this. Probably a lot of Caribbean parents, a lot of parents do this. They just think that, okay, you just go to school and it'll be fine. You're working all out in school. Everything will be fine. Don't worry about anything.
Doesn't work like that.
Yeah, and it's like...
Actually, I would say now it's okay a little bit.
No.
Don't you think?
No.
Till my parents, my uncles' time then, because there was a lot of racism back then. They didn't like colour. It was all white. England was white at the time, wasn't it? And I think now it's okay. It's okay. Well, it's not okay, but I mean, it's not like that. That's what I'm saying.
It's not like that. So to answer your question, yeah, it's not like that, but it's
slowly
still there.
It's still there. Yeah.
It's still there. And yeah, go on. So you were saying about growing your degree and being in Birmingham, because Birmingham's a really interesting city. So I was in Handsworth a couple of weeks ago, Soho Hill, and I did this tour around there by the Black Cultural Heritage Walks Network, fantastic organisation, and they took us through Soho Hill, and they said, yeah, this building used to be a real get together for Black people in Birmingham, and obviously we saw the Handsworth police station where the 81 riots were, and all that sort of stuff. But what's really interesting is all the buildings that used to be a Black nursery or a Black gathering centre or even the Muhammad Ali Centre, all those sorts of places, those iconic places, no longer owned by Black people in the community. They've been taken over. They were underfunded. They're either dilapidated buildings. So the history is there if you know it. But if you don't know it, you just look at these buildings like they're broken down, or they are what they are now, as opposed to what they used to be and the cultural hubs they used to be. So it's really interesting. Given your transition from Kenya to here, and your parents' transition in particular, do you think their perception of racism is different because they are from and born in a majority Black country?
Yeah, 100%. I think that. I mean, 100%. It's alien to them when you're not, because a lot of this stuff it is when you're in school. When you go to school, that's where a lot of this sort of stuff happens. Racism or whatever it might be, any kind of social issue. Nowadays, even like gangs and all that sort of stuff. Street crime and all that sort of stuff. The school is the crucible, sadly, are the crucibles for all of this sort of stuff. And obviously, we grew up here. We grew up going to school here, so we kind of get it. So, I get it. Yeah, some guys, sadly, and girls became, got into the road life and stuff like that. Yeah, the police. Yeah, you got to be, careful about the police because they'll stop you for. Although I didn't get stopped and searched many times, thank God, but. I know, driving in particular, my friends in particular, when we were younger, constantly getting stopped and for no particular reason, producer and all that sort of stuff. But your parents, I think a lot of parents, African parents, come here, and Caribbean parents. I know first generation Caribbean parents in particular came here with that mindset of this is like the promise.
Motherless,
mother country. Everything's fine. England is, it's all about fairness and justice and the rule of law. Yeah. What'd you say?
Yeah, everyone thinks it's the place to be.
Yeah, and it's like this place that's all fairness and justice and everything. So like the idea that no, there's, we are being stopped and beaten up by the police. Thankfully not me, but like the generation just before me was like, what? So, and one interesting thing as well here where I live, there's not many black people, but the black people who I do come across here tend to be recent immigrants to this country. And one thing I notice is that I don't get much of a racial consciousness from them, as in we walk past each other and like most of them don't even, I'm used to growing up in, like the nod. Yes, come on, kind of thing. Anyone growing up in London, it was just a standard thing. Could be any old person, young person, whatever. It's just like, at the very least, like, what's up? Yeah. Whereas here, that's not there, and I think it is because they haven't experienced the thing that brought black people together in this country was the shared experience of the racism. But if you've come here and you've not experienced the racism, you've come from Nigeria or Ghana or wherever it might be, then I'm just some other person, to a lot. Anyway, this is my thought is that for a lot of these people, I'm just some next person. We're not family in that regards for a lot of them. So yeah, it's going back to the what was the point? The upbringing. Yeah, with regards to my parents, absolutely. I forged my own racial identity on my own. Wow. There was no parental input in that regards whatsoever. And my parents are around still. I don't malice them for that. They did the best that they can, as all parents are doing the absolute best they can in any given circumstance. But yeah, that was me. What else was there? So went to uni, came back to London, started working. I work in the third sector now. I was a teacher, teaching English to foreign adults for 5 years, but then now I've been working in the third sector, charity sector for the last 15 years ish. And I'm very political. I think I'm quite politically radical. Like some of the beliefs I have are, I'm not very. And one thing I'd say as well is that being quite left wing and quite radical as I am now, I see that I can understand that parenting. This can't be how parenting is supposed to be. It can't be. It's not supposed to be this individualized thing where me and my wife are just here and we just have to get on with it and meet all our children's needs. That's not how it's supposed to be. That's a sick way of parenting, and I think particularly us as black people, where we come from, the lands that we come from generally very communalistic societies, even as we've come into the modern era and stuff, but there's still that kind of extended family thing where everyone gets stuck in. Grandparents have got a very close role to play with raising their grandchildren and stuff. And I really appreciate the wisdom of that now, because parenting is extremely stressful. It's very, very stressful, and there's no hiding place, like I said earlier. And it's ridiculous to think that I made a read about it. It's ridiculous to think that one set of parents can do all of the raising of their children. I think that's one of the problems that we have, particularly as a black community, is that we have a lot of single, lone parent headed households, which wouldn't be a problem if we still had the communalistic kind of, collective mindset, or we still were in units as a community with our extended families, but we're not. We're very fragmented as communities now, sadly. And so these mothers are doing the absolute best that they can do, but they just can't do everything.
I'll tell you one thing that resonates massively with me. I'll speak a little bit. This is a first for the podcast, actually. I'll speak a little bit about my personal life and that sort of stuff. So I grew up raised by, well, that's a tricky phrase. I grew up in my mum's house, right? My dad was always around, but particularly what was really strong about extended family is I don't know any of my mum's extended family. I do know all of my dad's extended family. So that whole black influence of going there on a Sunday, having a Sunday dinner, but wait, our Sunday dinner, it might be have a Yorkshire pudding there, but really it's dare I say, seasoned and jerk chicken. I mean, it's a different type of Sunday dinner. It's lovely, man. But that was all headed up by my grandparents. And then we used to get there on a Sunday, and you know, sometimes you'd get there early, and Gran would be watching Songs of Praise, and it's mad boring as a child, but you're around your cousins and you're doing all this communal stuff. However, since my grandparents passed away, no one's taken the mantelpiece of owning a Sunday. That's not a critique of anyone, but it's just how things have been. My nan is probably, she was one of the most altruistic people ever, you know, spend a whole heap of money to get everyone together on a Sunday and not ask for nothing. And that's not really practical, particularly in these days, day and ages. The size of my family, I've got like 8 siblings, 20 something cousins. There's a lot of us, you know what I mean? So getting us all together and paying for it is a massive shift. And no one's been prepared to do that on a weekly basis. We get together on family occasions and it's amazing. We recently had a wedding and it was amazing. But that unit was so vital to the way I grew up and the values I hold and the music I'm familiar with and the culture I'm familiar with. And if you look around here, you've got Jimi Hendrix on the wall behind us. Next to me, a book on how Europe underdeveloped Africa, all these things because of the influences I had as a child, because of that family unit. And I think it's so powerful. You're right. It takes a village to raise a child. And that was part of my village. When was it that you realized, wow, I need to switch on here in terms of being a parent? Was it pregnancy? Was it at the start of pregnancy? Was it in the middle of pregnancy? Was it that impending birth? At what stage did you think, okay, I need to flick the switch here and build a unit for my child to be born into? Or was it even before? It might be before.
I think I was always very involved and I was always going to be a involved dad. You know, I was definitely going to be, because you know, both me and my wife, we're thinkers. We think a lot about stuff, probably overthink things, frankly, a lot of the time. I'm sure she won't mind me saying, but I was always going to be involved. I was always going to be, you know, there and kind of they were going, you know, the children were always going to be the center of even as far as like job choices and stuff. You know, I was always going to be thinking, okay, what's going to work best for our routine as parents. So I actually think that, and as well, before I even met my girlfriend, who is my wife now, I was very, very like, listen, the next woman I get with has to be a marriage thing, or it has to be a serious thing, because I was tired of you know, come on, we all know you know the score. It's tough out there, man. I don't miss the dating scene whatsoever. But so yeah, I was always going to be quite involved. I think lockdown and last year probably, yeah, lockdown was had a real big impact as far as being mindful. It's a cliche, but I realized, like I said, with lockdown, because it sort of put us, it was like staring in a mirror just 24/7 kind of, like it was a bit like that. And I realized just for little things like getting frustrated with the children, getting, you know, lashing out at them, shouting at them, and I got to a point probably about maybe about the time I started this channel earlier this year, probably, or maybe last year. I got to a point where I realized that there were a lot of uninvestigated, I suppose, I don't know, beliefs that I had with regard to children that I needed to deal with. So something simple as am I going to hit my children? You know, what's the deal here? Where do I stand? You know, I've never really thought about that before, because I just thought, of course I wouldn't. Why would I do that? It's fine. They're just going to be these wonderful little children who are going to just do everything they're told and go to bed early and wake up not too early. And then there was some occasions where, like, I did slap my oldest son. You know, not hard or anything, but just and also shouting, much more common. You know, really shouting. And there's nothing like shouting loudly, because how often do adults shout? We very rarely shout.
Yeah.
You know, apart from on a football pitch or something, like outside of sport, you're not going to be shouting, like, literally. And there's something kind of like quite guttural, and is that right? Guttural, visceral about turning around and shouting at the top of your voice at a 3-year-old or
It's crazy,
4-year-old
if you think about
Who
it.
can't
Yeah.
communicate.
yeah,
Yeah.
who is now, I mean, now, you know, a
We're just
child who-
learning, I guess. Yeah.
yeah, they're like, I mean, God, like so in my there was a lot of like in my head, like I had to like really start to really confront some of these things of, listen, this is just a child. He's not trying to, you know, wind you up. He's not thinking, I'm going to wind up my dad. He's just developing. He's growing. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't know how to say. We were talking the other day about how, you know, children that age don't know how to say, do you know what? I think I'm tired. Yeah, that's what it is. They're just going to go crazy, you know, instead of just express, I'm kind of tired, Daddy. Can we have a shower and go to bed? You know?
Yeah.
If I can ask you then,
Yeah.
how much of that experience of shouting and etc., how much of that is your experience as you were growing up, that you learned?
Yeah, that is what I experienced. Yeah, definitely. So less so because I'm the youngest of 4, and like so I got away with it in the
Your
sense
parents
that
were tired by the time you
they
came
were
around.
they were knackered. 4 boys as well. So by the time
Yeah.
I came, I could definitely see like I don't remember my brothers being able to just go out like whenever they wanted to go out. But yeah, that was generally when it came to anything, any problems, issues. I don't really recall sitting down with my dad or mum and reasoning.
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's reason about this. What's the deal? It was just basically,
My way or the highway.
yeah. And like, you know, my dad, bless him, you know, he could be a shouter. Not so much now. This is one thing with parents when they become
they
grandparents,
become chill, don't they?
they just mellow out, and it's all like, where was all this when I was growing up? Do you know what I mean?
Who is this energy?
I've seen it before, like my own eyes, when your aunt or whoever shouting at her kids or anything, or my sister shouts at her kid, my mum will quickly come and back it. What are you doing that for? Then I'm thinking, you did that to us. You did that to us.
So, Rochelle, if I could ask you, because as you mentioned about smacking the child, Rochelle,
Yes, I'm doing
we've had this conversation.
Yeah, we've had this convo.
And I've always said no.
I've always said yes, because I've come from Asian background, from Bangladesh. We go way back. It's just a cultural thing. Like, if you mess up, you get hit. It's just standard. Like, you get hit, you're not going to do it again. You might. I was a bit of a naughty kid, but obviously we had like 2 other brothers, similar age. We were just messing around, but it's just a thing. It's such a norm in our culture. In our family. I think the generation on, probably my generation, is going to be different. I think I will hit my kid, but I'm just going to say how it is.
Man's loading up the left already. Like,
I'm going to say how it is. I think there's nothing wrong with it. But I think it's going to be a different approach though. Like, I'm going to speak to them, let them know. I think we didn't get that back in the day. You should just get hit. You did something naughty, bang,
you got to figure it out. Yeah.
Bang, and then you're okay. You're just crying in a corner. But then I don't regret it, and I've asked my mum this as well. Do you know when you hit us as a kid, did it like hurt you? Like, she goes, yeah, but I'm trying to teach you not to do it. It's wrong.
Yeah.
So that was her thing. But she goes, yeah, deep down, it always hurt or seeing you crying or getting hurt, but I had to do it. But I think it goes all the way back to ancestors and everything. It's just a thing that they did as a, and then you grow out from it. Because probably last time I got hit, man, I'm talking primary school, man. Yeah, secondary school, I got too strong. But yeah, I think it's just a culture thing. But I think our cultures are similar, and yeah, I think it's just I find culture so beautiful though. Beautiful. And I love how it interlinks with everyone.
It's interesting your mum said, sorry to cut in, that your mum said that it did hurt her, because that's something I never thought about to ask my parents. Like, did it, you know, next time I talk to one of them, I'm going to say, like, do you remember, like, because it does, it feels horrible, honestly. Prepare yourself. I know you say, yeah, I'm gonna hit him, but like, it's the worst feeling.
Yeah. I see what the joking thing, but yeah.
Where it really come, like, there was one time because my youngest, he's only 2, 3 soon, but he's like very kind of equal rights and justice. He's got this like justice thing. Like, so like there's a couple of times I slap him on the hand, and like, whereas like the eldest one would be like, ah, and like, but then just get on with it. The youngest one would be like, he'd be there like, don't hit me. No, don't hit. he'll go on about it, and I'll be like, all right, stop. I didn't feel good anyway when I was doing it, let alone you turning around with your big eyes and your, absolutely horrified response to it all. Like, it's because that the thing about whether you're going to hit or not is quite a big one. It's going to be a big one to bring up with your partner as well, where they stand in that regards. There are some stuff. Just one of the things I've discovered with parenting and parenting advice is that there's a lot of stuff out there where they say, yeah, if you hit your child's going to grow up to be a axe murdering, whatever thief. Yeah, and it's like, I don't know about that.
Still time, Rachel.
No, yeah. I mean, if you ask anyone, in the Bangladeshi community, it's norm. It was actually norm as a kid.
Yeah, I can't lie.
Yeah, I remember going to mosque.
What?
Yeah,
you getting hit by?
It was a thing. It was
getting hit at the mosque.
Yeah,
Makes
it was
sense,
a thing. Yeah, it was
Churches
a thing.
would have been the same.
Because you think about it, these guys, whether they come to England, but they've still got the back Bangladesh old mindset from their country, and they're just bringing it over. They think it's the norm. But then after a while, it did get changed. It did. I don't know what happened, but it changed. They stopped like hitting you, whatever, at the mosque and everything. So it does change. It does. But I think
it
now,
changed for the better. Is it better now?
I haven't. I transitioned, so I think I don't know. We did mess around, but I think it was just norm. Like you just get
It is what it is. Yeah.
In our culture, it was just such a norm.
I was never hit, bro.
Never.
Yeah.
I mean, look, my mum never hit me, but also, if we're going to address the elephant in the room,
Yeah.
what do you think the elephant in the room was, Sasha?
Your mum's white.
Yeah. So there is that. I never got hit.
Had your dad?
Nah.
Never.
Like, but
you know what?
There was a line though.
My dad never. As well.
If my mum said, "I'm gonna call you dad,"
Boom.
That was always all right.
That was it.
Listen, let's not be hasty here. Let's just stop. Also, I'm the youngest of my mum's children, so she was probably tired by the time I came around and all of that. Do you know what I mean? So there's a lot of caveats. I'm sure my older siblings maybe got a little spank here and there, but maybe I was just too quick.
Nah. Did your older brothers like punish you or anything?
We fought, yeah, but I don't know if they punished me on behalf of my mum.
Oh, okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess.
But
gap is not too much.
That's something I have to discuss with them because I don't feel like I missed out as a result of not being here.
To this day, obviously my Bengali mates, we laugh about it because we've all experienced the same thing. It's so funny. Yeah. Obviously back then it wasn't, but I mean now you just laugh about it. It's funny that we did the naughty things. Mom here, so it's something that you can relate to with someone. But I don't think anything wrong with it at all. But honestly, I said I'll beat my kid, but I don't know what will happen in it.
It's a fascinating debate, though. Like, it's very interesting.
I find it funny. I find it such a... Because he keeps smirking at me.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I might become like the dad that... No, I don't hear him.
Rachel, let's have a phone call. When it happens, give me a call, innit?
Yo, I just hear him.
So you'll be in tears, like.
So, back to you, Ellie. So, at what stage does this become like? Okay, you've got 3 older brothers, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you having these conversations with them? Where are they at in this mindful journey?
Somewhat. Two of them are parents. I talked to one of them. I mean, their children are, probably almost your age. They're like, mid-20s kind of thing.
Yeah.
So he's quite a bit older. Actually, he's not that much older, but he started early, and I started very late. So with parenting, it's interesting because obviously they've got young-ish children still, as far they're in their 20s, but they've gone through all of this stuff that I've been going through many years ago, and they one thing I noticed with like older parents of older children is that they forget quite a lot of stuff. So whereas I'd be like, there's one good friend of mine who I ring quite, he's my like nuclear option of right, I need wisdom because he's a very wise guy. He's got grown up children, he's got head screwed on. I really, respect him.
Yeah.
But he's let me down so many times with his lack of, because I remember ringing him up like when my oldest was going through a bit of a, challenging, behavior phase. And I was like, how the hell do you deal with, like, he just keeps, he has this rage, he has rages and he shouts and like, I don't want to hit him. So how does this work? And he'd be like, I can't really remember what we did with ours. And that's a common issue that I have. Like, I think it's or some kind of evolutionary thing or something that like parents forget the bad things or the tough
100%. Yeah.
elements of parenting as they get older. Probably because they, if you were constantly holding this like tension and anger about how hard everything was, then you'd probably just give up and leave. So like, you probably the good things you max out on the good memories and you forget all the bad ones, kind of thing, to help you so that you'll keep parenting that child, kind of thing. But yeah, no, I don't. I talked to one of my brothers a little bit about that, but it's generally speaking, I've got a lot of friends who are parents as well, and I find sadly that I don't know what it is, but a lot of parents that I know, friends of mine, don't talk about it. They don't. It's not like and sometimes I feel like, am I just really bad at this? And like, am I just do I worry too much about things? Am I just overthinking things and I should just shut up and just get on with it? Or is it that a lot of other people are not bringing things to their are just going with the flow and, what I mean? Not, what's the word? Not thinking things through carefully and just going on autopilot. I don't know what it is, but it's,
The reason I ask is because our friend Ronald, he just had a baby.
Shut up.
And before that baby was born, I kept saying to him, let me give Ronald a little applause there. Shout out Zion, his baby. And before Zion was born, Ronald and I had plenty of conversations about, bro, this is a really weird moment. You're the first of us to have a child. And it's going to be a black child. And we are now 20 something and we are black men. How can we reverse engineer this scenario to teach your child as much as we would have liked to have been taught, and let him know the secrets that we learned late on in life earlier? How can we do that? And we had those conversations, and when I saw your post, I sent it to Ronald right away, and I was like to Ronald, the first post I saw of you was about the book, and I said to Ronald, I said, look, this is the sort of stuff like I'm on about. I'm trying to get across. This is just a more eloquent way of putting it. And he's got a bunch of content on this. And
was that was it the color book?
Yeah, it was,
okay, cool.
that book. So we'll come back to that. Yeah. And basically a lot of it was like, because again, Ronald, I hope he doesn't mind me mentioning this. I'm gonna say it anyway, and I'll say it as best I can. And then cut it. Basically, Ronald's wife is white and Ronald's a black man. So I basically broached him, because obviously my mum was white, my dad's black. I said to him, bro, within that there's going to be a lot of interesting dynamics. The way she's used to raising a child or used to being raised versus the way you're used to being raised. Yeah. That's going to be an interesting thing. And Zion, your child's going to be in the middle of that. So I just gave him a few bits of I suppose insight from my perspective, and how important it is for him to be a role model. Because ultimately Zion is a black man in society. Although his mum is white, he is a black man, and Ronald is a black man. So that role model of Ronald is going to be so strong. And it was fascinating to have that conversation, as I think, wow, like we're going to have to broach these conversations about how you navigate school and all that. Because I was taught racism is some people are good, some people are bad. The bad people do racism and the good people don't. I grew up and I realized, whoa, that is not true. That's not true. And I had to navigate all those sort of systems. So yeah, very, very interesting. And I say that to say this. Your children are below 5, is that right?
Yeah.
All below 5. At what stage?
Two of them, and they're both below 5. Yeah.
And at what stage do you talk about the elephant in the room and everything? And where? Yeah.
It came early. I mean, my oldest, who's 4.5 now, he probably about a year ago, maybe within the possibly when he was 3, he has mentioned they start to notice, because it's like, it's bloody obvious, isn't it? That part of my French, but look around, particularly where we live. Like I say, not that many black people here, not that many non-white people at all here. So there's not even many Asians or Arabs or whatever. So I remember there was a time we was at swimming, and we were showering him after he went swimming, and he said to me, "Daddy, everyone's white here." I was like, yes, this is true. And like I try to stay calm, like don't freak out about it. You know what I mean? Like,
he knows.
yeah. I can grab him. Like, let's get out of here. We need to. But yeah, just he started to notice it probably from about 3-ish in his 3 year, when he was 3. And that's one of them things I'd probably say as parents, like, do prepare for how you will start to talk about these things.
How did you
with
do
them. I mean, in that particular situation, I think I said, and we're brown, aren't we? Try to kind of make it like, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Even though in my head I'm like, this is massive. Race is huge. It shapes society, it shapes the world, it shapes our historical experience in this world. But for now, all you need to know is, yes, we're different. That's I think that's kind of what I tend to do, is like kind of like affirm that, yes, we are different. These people, they are different to us. We have different skin, and I've said we talk he knows what melanin is. He knows, melanin is a thing that gives pigmentation, and we have a lot of melanin, which is why we're darker. Some of people don't have quite so much melanin. And hair starts, your hair. Because I suppose my approach is, because I remember I grew up in Hackney. I was his age when I was in Hackney, when I was in his age. Very, very, very mixed society even back then. Very, very mixed. White people were probably in a minority then. Certainly in my school they were. But I still remember, I still remember feeling a bit of a way about being black, probably because when you watch TV and all that, back in them days, all you saw was white people.
Yeah.
And so the standard of beauty and just what it means to be the kind of people who get put on TV and know what I mean, be in positions of power and all that sort of stuff. I was like, right, okay, well that's that then. Subconsciously, it wasn't conscious, but I remember wrapping a towel around my head and like pretending that I had long hair.
I did that.
Yeah, I think
my brothers ripped me about it.
I think, to be fair, it's quite an innocent thing, because it's quite funny to do that. But I definitely do remember having to grapple with this kind of okay. And I didn't talk to my parents about any of that. So my thought is, listen, elephant in the room. Let it draw attention to the elephant in the room. Don't make it like a weird thing that's going to be like this worry inside him for like years. Oh God, we're different, and I don't know how to deal with it. Just be upfront, be open about it, acknowledge it, recognize it, help, kind of encourage him to just be comfortable in his skin about how he is for now. My worry is, I don't know what I'm going to do if, hopefully just if, but it might be when, he experiences a racial incident. Not sure how I will deal with that. I don't know what I'll say to him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I just don't know. Like, there'll be something on the lines of, some people, but this probably it's a unfortunate byproduct of being a cultural studies student back in the day, and like being into books like Eric Williams and Walter Rodney and all this sort of stuff. It's probably an unfortunate thing where like I've got a lot of thoughts in my head about race, and in any given situations, I can't communicate all of this stuff to you in this minute.
So at uni, I'm just thought Stuart Hall, influenced by him at uni, of course, because Birmingham and the Birmingham Institute of Cultural Studies. So so this is massive then, because my degree's in sociology. I went to Leicester, but Stuart Hall obviously is still a central part of sociology, particularly racial studies and that sort of stuff. So I find it, I struggle with it as well, because I'll be having a normal conversation. I'm like, but it's not just that, is it? You got to look at the structure, look at the power dynamics, and like, for instance, when you were talking about your school being very ethnically and socially diverse, the first thing that comes to my mind, but who were the teachers? Who were the people in power? Or were they majority white, or was it a mixture there?
No, it was a mixture. They were all white. I don't recall. There might be one Asian teacher, maybe in my primary school, maybe.
so that still has a basis on where you see yourself going, because everyone that's on your level, your peers, that's one thing, but who's where you want to be? It's a lot of white faces. One thing I wanted to pick up as well is you mentioned being an English teacher to those English as a second language. I did a very similar experience in China for a year, teaching school age children. And one kid come up to me and he says to me, teacher, he, pointing to someone on the board, he is white man and you are brown man. Am I yellow man? That was all he said. And I'm like, okay, that's very loaded. That's very loaded. Like, do I say, yes, you're yellow man? But that in itself, like from England, like if you call someone from East Asia yellow, that's negatively loaded. Like that's not positive. So do I say yes? I says, I can't remember my answer. I genuinely can't remember my answer. But I remember being like really conflicted. I think I just
happy that was you, not me, man. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't remember what I said, but it was a tough question. One thing I do remember responding to though was I was walking around the class, just seeing how people are getting on with their studies, and one girl said to me, about 10 years old, says to me, teacher, they don't have trainers or electricity in Africa, do they?
Oof.
I'm like, oh my god. Okay, stop the lesson. Let's address this here and now. Obviously, you got a massive board. I go on Baidu, which is the Chinese Google. And if anyone knows Baidu, it's not extensive. You Google one of the wrong things and it just blocks you off, and you can't get too much information. So I had to try and look for African cities and put a picture on, and show the high buildings and the development, and simply just show a black child with some shoes on. That bust that myth for her. And I realized, wow. And obviously China's a very, I hope I'm okay in saying this, authoritarian country. They see a lot of one singular stories, and actually many stories of many cultures are plural. So trying that example of there, just showing that young girl, actually Africa's way more developed than, and Africa's a continent first of all, but it's way more developed than you think it would be, was a win. But I don't know how much of that she really internalized into her worldview. It's really difficult.
It's crazy,
But I say that to say this again. What's your experience teaching people who English isn't their first language, but they're adults? Is there anything you've had to sort of reverse engineer? I know it's like 15 years ago, but is there anything you had to think, okay, in England, here and now, that's not acceptable? Although it is a direct translation or what you might be used to, it's not acceptable.
Ooh, I don't think so. I think generally, first of all, my experience was a really good experience. So I was teaching in Newham at the time, and this is in the early noughties. So it was just crazily mixed. I did evening classes were all Eastern Europeans. Like literally 1 year there were none, and then the next year I think Poland and Lithuania might have got let into the EU, and then the classes were all like filled with these people. Like I've never even met a Lithuanian before. Now, like I know what their names sound like and stuff.
Yeah.
But what I found is that and then my daytime classes were, I taught in Green Street. I don't know if you know Green Street in Upton Park, West Ham kind of area.
Asian area.
Yeah. And that class, that was such a great experience. Class was made up of basically 98% Asian women from Pakistan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. And they were so lovely. At first it was like, I could tell they were like, what's this guy doing here? Where's the teacher? Kind of thing. And I was a young guy then as well, like this tall, strapping, hoodlum looking dude. But they were just so Whoops. Hello.
All good. We've got a little guest joining us. Hello.
Yeah. Can you go downstairs, please? Go on. This is all right. Don't worry. Fire brigade hat. There we go. That's my eldest. He's the. What was I saying?
About being in Newham.
Yes.
Newham, calling yourself beautiful.
They were very friendly. Very. I think the novelty of it. I was surprised because I thought, oh god, they're gonna, I'm gonna get some weird vibes from them because they're, what I mean. They're all, And actually, it taught me that actually, as much as racism and anti-blackness is very pervasive in a lot of countries around the world, push comes to shove, when you're together with people and like the ice is broken, I found that I just enjoyed myself. It was really good fun. I don't recall any dodgy racist, dodgy moments of, oh, you can't say that. Actually, that's racist. Sorry. I had a good experience in that regard. Yeah.
one last thing, and then Rochelle, you're going to get into content, yeah? One last thing I wanted to talk about briefly is, okay, so we acknowledge your children are all below 5. And being a mindful black dad, you said it started for you within pregnancy and up to now, of course. I suppose the elephant in the room for me is, how is it going to change being a mindful black dad of a teenager, and then a young adolescent, and then an adult, and all those different scenarios that need to be navigated? Are you prepared? Have you got any questions? Have you got any questions you can raise now that we could inform or either ask the guests or ask the audience?
I mean, to be honest, I anticipate that every year is just going to be, I'll probably feel about the same, because because for my youngest son, it'll be like, oh, cool, yeah, I've done, we've been here before. I know what's going on here. You're going to probably do this, that, and the other. So I need to do But with the eldest, it's going to be just a whole lot of, oh, this year he's now started to, I don't know, get into whatever. This, he started to swear. Oh, he started to use swear words. Okay, how do we deal with swear words? Oh, he started to drink or something. Oh, he wants to drink. How do I approach this drinking thing? Bear in mind, I sometimes may have a drink. So I think it's just I think it's going to be a whole lot of learning all the way through, to be honest. And the good thing is, and particularly Instagram, I did not expect I'd ever say this, but Instagram has been really useful for me as a parent, because there's so much, there's like a parent Instagram scene out there, and it's great. It's great because these people are getting into like the real nitty gritty of what to do when, here's some ideas on what to do when your child, kicks you or something, or here's what to do when your child doesn't want to use the potty. There's that niche and that like granular
stress.
And I'm like,
yeah, man, we're not on that yet. Oh, it's coming.
Keep me away.
Yeah. Well, wow. Yeah. That's our next one.
But it's going to be a beautiful journey, man.
Yeah.
It's going to be a very beautiful journey.
Yeah. And one thing I say as well, the more it goes on, the more I'm enjoying it as well. It's not getting easier, but I think I'm growing and learning a lot more about me and myself.
Yeah, I bet.
Which is, I think that's the key thing. So the mindfulness thing, that's the key thing. It's just like a big part of that is being mindful about yourself, being self-aware, knowing what your things inside you that you might be struggling with, like I said, with the anger stuff, or patience and this sort of thing. And the more I feel like I'm getting more self-control in that regards, and so it means that parenting is becoming less of a kind of less red flags with parenting, and more enjoyable. So yeah, I think it will be a journey.
How did you work on that anger and that patience and that? Because the older I get, the more I think my patience is actually getting thinner. I thought we'd be getting better as I got older. It's actually getting worse.
You're gonna be the greatest dad.
Mate, I'm trying. I want to be ready, but how do you build on that? Is it books you're reading? Is it navigating that parental Instagram space? Like, how are you building that resilience and that pool?
I think it's just like I say with the hitting thing, for example. I don't think hitting is bad. I'm trying not to hit, but I think in context, I think there's studies that show as well. Personally, I've seen studies that basically say that as long as you're not going crazy with it, and it's in the context of, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, proportionate.
Yeah, you're not being angry when you're doing it and all that sort of stuff. I've seen studies that suggest that actually it's positive, it has a positive impact. But with a lot of stuff, a lot of claims are made in these studies which you can't prove one way or the other, because you can't just put, okay, here's a child and we're not going to feed them any protein for a year, for example. And this child, same family, we're going to feed them protein, see what the difference is. You can't do this. It's not ethical to like do some of these studies, or like, we're going to beat this child relentlessly for like 6 months and see what impact that has on them. Well, it's not going to happen. But yes, I think just the experience of I don't know if there's anything in particular that has.
But like you say, is it then being mindful and just keeping it front of mind? So when you notice your patience running thin, you say to yourself, all right, Ellie, So you just what's the word I'm looking for? Regulating yourself a little bit more than perhaps usual.
Yeah, definitely controlling yourself, talking as well to my partner. being open, being honest. That's probably quite a big thing as well. Like being honest with your partner when you're struggling, and not being like. Because one of my things probably when I was younger. Well, I suppose I was younger, but like earlier on in parenting was I probably thought, oh well, she's going through so much, like breastfeeding and this, that, and the other, and she. How can I complain? All I'm doing is just my little thing. I can't complain. But I think a big turning point was probably me just opening up and saying, listen, for example, I am down. I'm depressed right now. I feel really, really bad right now. Do you know what I mean? And just not feeling ashamed to just say that, because what's one thing as well, it's a male-female thing. Women are probably socially encouraged to be really open with their emotions and be open with what they're struggling with and all that. But men aren't. I mean, it sounds cliche to even say that, but it's true. And it really is the case with parenting as well, when like I felt like I couldn't be open. But then, having become much more open with that, then she can help out. You know what I mean? She can like, look out and be like, okay, cool. Yeah, I can see you're maybe under the weather a little bit or struggling a little bit. Cool. I'll take the boys. You go off, have a lie down, or you go out and meet some friends or whatever.
Yeah.
That's really helped, being open, like I say, about what's happened, the internal struggles that I'm having. Get it out, and then other people can hear and kind of assists in that regards. And just as realizing as well that we parents, we put ourselves under a lot of pressure to get everything right all the time, every day, 24/7, free. You know what I mean? Every single day of the week. I can't be too harsh, but I can't be too soft. I must, give them the exact right information with regard to race, but don't go OTT, but don't ignore it.
It's crazy.
It's just too much. Yeah. An important thing is just realize, listen, the fact that you're even thinking about this stuff means that you're probably going to be doing a good job.
Yeah.
You're going to muddle through. You're not going to get it right all the time, but you're going to gradually, find your groove, find your rhythm, and you're generally going to do the right thing. Don't worry too much about when you get it wrong, because one thing as well, children are very resilient. Sounds harsh, but they bounce back. They're not there thinking, oh, I can't believe that my dad shouted at me yesterday. I'm gonna have to really. They're not. They're just like, come on, let's go, let's play, let's run, come on, daddy. So there's a few things there, but probably I'm just that's been my experience so far. Anyway, it's
So one last question from me then, and then content for you, Rachel, is you got 3 boys?
Two.
You got 2 boys?
2 boys, yes.
Have you got a girl or just 2 children?
No girls.
So I'm interested. Have you considered what differences, if any, there would be being a mindful black dad of a daughter versus being a mindful black dad of sons?
Yeah, It's really hard for me to put myself in the head in to think, oh, what would this be like if this is a girl? Because for me, being a parent is being a parent of boys. And weirdly, a lot of people that I know who've got children, they've all got boys as well. 1 boy, 2 boys.
Something in the water.
Yeah, probably. There's gonna be a shortage of women maybe when they're coming into that season. But probably would I be? I can envisage me being less harsh with.
That's interesting.
Girls. Yeah.
I think that's such a norm. Like that's like my dad as well.
Is it?
Yeah, it was chill with my sister.
Yeah.
No one can touch her. No one can hurt her, anything. She couldn't do wrong.
Yeah.
Even if she was naughty. Yeah, I think it's just, don't know, it's your little girl princess. Is that
the patriarchy?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Because I can't imagine. Like, for example, I can't imagine gripsing up my daughter. Like, it's just be like, leave her. It's fine. Let her do it. Probably. So that was a whole thing. I was like, with the second one in particular. I was like, kind of would. I mean, if it's a boy or a girl, it's fine. But I really would like it to be a boy.
You know what you're doing. You know where you stand.
Yeah, and also as well, it's on a selfish thing. They've got this bond with me, which they don't have with their mum. They never will have the same bond. They're like, I do like that. I don't know how single parents do it, to be honest. Particularly single mothers of boys who have boys. That's tough.
Well, To give you some insight, my mum, she had 3 boys and 1 girl. And she said she's so glad she had 3 boys and 1 girl and not 3 girls and 1 boy. She's so glad. Yeah. So I don't know what that says about my sister, but not good things.
Yeah. I think girls, as they get older, might be more complicated.
Yeah.
Which is why I probably, another reason why I'm quite glad, because I think the one thing with boys, they're quite straightforward. They're fairly straightforward in their naughtiness and the way they kind of carry on. Like, it's like, yeah, you're just being rowdy. You're just going to shout now because you're tired, but you don't know how to just say I'm tired. So you're just going to shout and run around, and you want to physical play, a lot of that sort of stuff. And I think more in my head, I've got a stereotype of, yeah, when they get to their teens, they're not going to be all catty and, you know, having all cliques and all this sort of stuff with their friends. That's girls. Girls do that. They'll be having all their cliques and be, you know, oh, she said that she's now gone off with her friends. I don't like that. I'm probably that's probably like some patriarchal, misogynistic stereotyping on my part. So, you know, I apologize to the listeners in advance, and I look forward to being schooled in that regard. But that's my hunch.
Well, listen, for us, it's always an opportunity to bring you back on in 10 years and let us know how your sons are doing in
Absolutely,
school. Have they got cliques? Have they? You know, how are you faring? Are you all right? Basho, over to you.
Yeah, so one of the posts I've seen, and before we started recording, I mentioned it, is the book. I don't know if we call it the book, but it was the color book. I saw it and I was just, wow. It's crazy that someone actually wrote it. Obviously, I don't know if they made it with intent. I don't know. But now how this, personally, probably. Because this is how it's all shaped in movies, documentaries, anything. Connotation of black are scary, feared. Because in the book, what did it say? There was like different colors, and then did they have white in there? Any chance?
I think they did. Yeah.
What was the thing for that? What was the color for that? What was the
angelic probably?
Because it's called the Color Monsters. The book's called the
Color Monsters.
Color Monsters, and I can just quickly check what it was.
Because your son came home one day and said, "What was it, Dad? I'm black. Is it I'm feared or?"
He said, "Oh, I don't want to be black," and I said, "Well, this is one of those moments."
Wow.
God. Uh-oh, right.
Yeah.
What did the book say? What do I? But, and he said, "I don't want to be black." I was like, "Why is that?" Because black is scared or black is scary.
I find that so sad, you know. It's so scary. Yeah.
At that point, I still didn't know. I was like, "What do you mean? That's so deep. That's like, you know." And then I learned it was from the Color Monsters book. And I was gobsmacked. I didn't know what did I say? I can't remember what to say. I can't remember what I said to him, to be honest. But it wouldn't have been anything very useful, probably. Again, I wouldn't have wanted to make too much of a big deal with it at the time. But yeah, it was black in this thing was scared and scary, and whichever way you cut it, that's a negative. It's quite a negative thing. Do you know what I mean? All the other stuff, you know, green happy, yellow happy, yellow calm. I think green was happy. Red might have been angry. You know, so
makes sense. Yeah. Red. I want to know what white meant. I just really wanted to know who.
Yeah, white would have been. It's probably going to be something like.
Did you do anything about it? Did you let school know if I saw the?
Yeah, so we went to speak to the school. It wasn't about that. It was about something else. We were going in because we wanted to talk to see how, you know, our son's doing and discuss some behavioural issues that had been taking place. Normal stuff, nothing crazy. But in that conversation, I brought up that you know what, I told him what had happened, and the teacher. And listen, I felt a bit bad when that reel went viral by my standards, you know, being shared left, right, and centre. I felt a bit guilty because I was like, oh God, if the nursery see this, like, I would want to sort of say, I just want to contextualize it by saying that I don't think that you're bad. I don't think you're necessarily racist, you know, in your practices or whatever. But when I did tell the teacher about it, one of them basically said, "Oh no, that's not what that means." You know, it's not, and it was kind of like, right, okay, I see where we are. You know what I mean? I see where we are here. You know, you probably hasn't even crossed your mind that black is something that is associated with negativity, or it hasn't been brought into your conscious mind, you know it deep. You know it because Black Day, Black.
Deep down, they know it. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, Black Mark.
They're just too scared to say it.
Yeah, and it was. I kind of left it. I had a conversation with Pelego Powell. This guy, and he's a teacher in Birmingham, actually, funny enough.
Okay.
And he really encouraged me to go back to the nursery and like raise it and discuss it and all that sort of stuff. Because I probably left them off the hook a bit. I probably
I think you did, you know, because I don't think I don't know how old was he, 3 or on nursery age?
It's about 6 months ago. So 4,
yeah. So I can't imagine a 4-year-old just thinking, coming home like reading that, or I don't know if they read it themselves or the teacher read it to the class, but coming home I'm thinking, I don't want to be black anymore. I just found it sad.
It's real foundational as well, isn't it?
Scary, and such a young age thinking about that. It's scary. They should have just got rid of the book completely. I mean, that teacher should have just ripped it apart and just threw it away. 100%.
Yeah,
but it depends. Yeah, carry on. Sorry.
The good thing, there was another teacher there who, like, she reacted very differently. She was like, you could see that sort of like
empathy
thing of like, oh gosh, she was like, I'd never thought of that. But not in a sense of, it doesn't mean that. It wasn't a rejection thing. It was more of like, oh gosh, wow, all right, yeah, fair enough. So it's interesting because part of so when I talk about race or our identity with our children, part of me is like wanting to maybe not be too focused on the black element and focus more on the culture element, the African element, the Caribbean element, as in identification, because I know that we have got our cultural identities, you know, African, Yoruba, Fulani, whatever it might be. Do you know what I mean? We've got all these ethnic backgrounds, and then we've got our African diaspora kind of identity. Whereas the black thing, I don't think that we called ourselves black before we were blackened. Before the certainly the Arabs and the Europeans, marked us out as being black. You're black. These are black people. I don't think we called ourselves black. I don't think we identified ourselves primarily as black. So I'm split. Part of me is maybe thinking, listen, maybe it's best that you detach from the black association, and particularly knowing that black is associated with so many negative things in English and other European languages. Black is, very, very negative things. So why hitch ourselves to that label, knowing that, and especially knowing it's not our label, we were blackened by others, and focus more on our culture, our kind of cultural background, because we're the only one. Well, I mean, I suppose why I don't think other people are racialized in quite the same way as we are.
No, I don't even think so. Whiteness is such a default, and do you know what? It's I cringe now when I might be walking somewhere or wherever, and I say, yeah, this black guy, insert comment here. But I rarely ever, if ever, hear this white guy, you know what I mean? The white is the default. You just say this guy, But when people say this black guy, I remember I was in a taxi in Dublin actually, and this guy was talking to me about one party he went to and whatever else. He's like, so I was dancing with this black girl. I'm right to that. Bear in mind, I'm the only black guy in the taxi. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, it's fine, mate. If she was black, you can say she was black. It's fine. And then he carried on his story. But I'm bear in mind, he's driving. I'm sitting in the front next to him. I'm just like, oh my god, man, hurry up and get to the destination, because now it's just awkward, bro.
Wait, what context was the convo on?
It was a normal convo. He was just saying, I went out with this.
See, he mentioned it. He mentioned it just to try and fit in.
Yeah. But it was just, I basically asked him, where can I go out here? Where's good fun? And then he was like, yeah, I remember in the 80s, I went out with this black girl. And it's like, bro, you don't have to be nervous. Like, it's fine. If she was a black woman, you could say that.
Yeah.
But yeah, people love to. You're right. It's a very, it's awkward, and I think we're probably one of the only ones that are so attached to. I've never thought of that actually. I've never considered that about attaching more to the culture as opposed to the color. And obviously we record this on October 2nd, Black History Month in the UK. So this in itself is a very poignant conversation to have and to even question blackness around Black History Month. Yeah, it's interesting.
And
Yeah.
it sounds sacrilegious because of black power, black pride, all that stuff from the 60s, 70s. It sounds sacrilegious to be like you want to throw away all this like work, because it was on the basis of that so much of the progress that was made in the 70s, 80s, 90s was on the affirmation of blackness kind of thing. It's almost like the other day I was thinking, it's a little bit like the N-word. It's almost like maybe you could argue that it's like we reclaimed blackness from being something that was so negative. It's like, no, we're going to claim it and switch it around and be prideful of it. It's a little bit like the N. Some people claim you can do that with the N-word and other slurs, but yeah, that's one of the things I'm gonna have to, because how would that work? I'm not sure. Like when everybody else is calling us black and calling him black.
I tell you what, I wouldn't be like, I'd be optimistic, because for instance, BAME was for so long, or BME, however you use it, for so long was used. And at work, we have a GEM staff network, so Global Ethnic Majority Staff Network.
Ooh.
And that obviously shrinks down to GEM, which in itself has much more positive connotations. And at work, we've adopted it in terms of all our data. We refer to it as GEM versus whatever else. And obviously you might have saw the Sewell report, and the less said about that, the better. But you may have seen it, and they even themselves identified that the shortcomings of BAME. So we're moving away from that, and I think we moved away from coloured.
Yes.
So I think we can move away from black if the case is strong enough. I think we're going to struggle though. I'd be interested in following it along.
It's definitely was something to unpick. I love that, by the way, that global ethnic majority, because that's another one of those concepts.
The truth.
That's one of those things I tell my son, is that here, I mean, there's not many of us in this particular town, but my goodness me, like I know we always talk to him about, my wife's from Jamaica, her background is Jamaican, my background is Uganda, big, particularly Uganda, 40-something million people there,
wow.
And that's not even a big country in Africa kind of thing. And I'm, regularly telling them, like, this Africa, there's, lots and lots of African people there. You're not a minority in that sort of sense. But going back to the Colour Monsters thing, that's it's definitely something that, especially my eldest has now just started school, so it's on my to-do list to really get into what their approach to teaching about race is. How they're going to do it, what kind of terms are they going to be using. Pelly Powell, he encouraged me to look at their policies with regard to racism, and all their policies, basically read through very carefully, because in that situation with the book, what that exposed to me was how unprepared I was for handling that, and how stunned I was, and how I didn't follow up and all that sort of stuff. What I'd like to do is be part of a movement, or part of a kind of thing, I don't know what you call it, to help other parents like you guys, when you become parents and whatnot, so that you can either know where to go to, like, okay, what do I do in this situation? Or just generally, because it becomes more a part of conversations that parents, GEM parents, let's say, we get to, by the time we're actually getting to parenthood, you've got a rough idea. Actually, this is the kind of thing I'm going to do when I become a parent. This is what I'm going to do with regard to dealing with nurseries and schools and so forth. Is it? Yeah.
Well, keep us updated. What we'll do is we'll put your Instagram in the description below. One thing I wanted to ask you about your content, actually, is we've been there, by the way. We've pressed send or post on a couple of pieces of content that we thought, we don't know how this is going to land, We don't know. What's the piece of content that you've pressed post on and just turn your phone off for a little bit and try to detach from it? Because I can imagine with your topic, sometimes what is true and authentic to you is going to be touchy anyway, because we already know how Britain works, particularly Britain. Let's not talk about race, religion, or politics. So when you're talking about race and you're mixing in politics, I'm imagining some level of hesitancy there. So what's the piece of content that's made you most hesitant, nervous, apprehensive?
I feel like I know. Was it the most recent one?
Yeah.
The Queen's funeral. Is that what you were getting on? Yeah.
Well, we'll see. Yeah.
But I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah.
I thought it was
Thank
perfect
you.
because we can't just be forced because we're in this country to mourn. Yeah, it's sad when anyone dies.
Yeah.
But I know, cool. To be honest, I don't really look too deep into the royal family and anything like that. But I know everyone who I work with. Actually, you know what? It's 50-50 in my workplace.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of people. There was a few like, what do you call them, royalists?
Yeah, royalists. Yeah.
Royalists who loved them, who were sad and everything. Then the other ones, it's a day off. It's a day off, man. Yeah, it's a day off. Can't wait. But I mean, yeah, what you did there, and I think it takes a lot nowadays because that could have gone either left.
Yeah.
But I saw the comments. There were, I think there was one.
I think I even commented on that.
I think there was one guy probably a bit iffy, but I think all the comments were really good. And yeah, I have to really rate you for that because I don't think a lot of people have said it. Well, I haven't seen it on Twitter. I haven't seen it on anywhere, to be honest, or Instagram or anything. You're the only one I've seen that said it how it is.
Wow.
Which I really rated.
Thank you. Yeah, I thought about that for a while because I was like, okay,
it's a touchy subject, isn't it?
I don't want to, I don't go to work and like my boss be like, Ellie, did you slag off the Queen? I don't think we can do that. Because I manage people as well, and I was just like, I'm always thinking that, listen, if this ends up in work, is it going to be all right? Roughly, not that you can't be critical of the society and so forth, because I do that all the time, but just people feel so strongly about that family that I did tread very carefully, and I could have said a lot more, I could have said a whole heap more, and I made a lot more videos with regard to what I think of regards to the royal family.
Then you would have got shadow banned.
Yeah. But with that video, there's a lot of positive comments. I was getting loads of positive comments, one or two. Really good. But then there was like after a couple of days, 3 or 4 days, that suddenly I started seeing, oh, here we go, the dudes with like one follower.
The fake
coming
accounts.
On, like, one guy was like, so what you're saying is that your people are losers.
Your people. Oh my god.
Yeah. And then another comment like on those lines, and I'm used to that from my YouTube channel. So I made it so that only people who follow me can comment, because I was like, I don't want to leave these comments here to like, stink out the place for everyone else.
Yeah.
And also I've learned, because back in the day I used to like, oh, let me engage with you. Yeah, let me try and just, you're asking a question. I've learned that no, trolls, do not feed the trolls. Don't do it. Just block them, remove the comments and block, because I don't have time. Maybe before becoming a parent, I had time to grapple and back and forth with these idiots. I don't have time anymore.
I tell you one thing, that really resonated with me, and you posted that at the perfect time for me, because at work I'm the co-chair of the Gem Staff Network. So you can imagine sometimes we put out content year round. I'm also the social media lead as well. So year round we're putting out stuff, and we're particularly around Black History Month, we've got events going on, all sorts of stuff. So the Queen passes away, and the university puts out a statement, and that statement is what it is. I'm not even going to comment on that. Obviously, I've got a job to keep. But I was asked, is Gem going to put anything out about the Queen's death? And I says, no, we're not. Okay. Because first of all, I think I was on a stag do that weekend, so I was busy. I was preoccupied. But second of all, yeah, exactly.
I'm busy, madam.
Yeah. Second of all, as well, I didn't personally. I wouldn't personally. I didn't have anything good to say. So it's a shame a 96-year-old lady passed away. It is a shame. But aside from that, I had nothing positive to say about this supposed Queen. So I'm not going to put anything negative out there on a platform when it's unnecessary. And no member reached out to me to say, I think we should say something. It was just, that sort of stuff. So in the end, what I did do is I recognize there's a huge conflict. So if I said something positive, there might be some members of the network who think, yeah, but that represents a whole heap of imperialism and murder and whole, plundering from me and my people. And then equally, if I put out something negative, there may be some royalists who are from the Gem community, and that's okay. But they may have not resonated with that message. So I just thought it was I couldn't do it.
I think that was the best thing.
So I reached out to the network and I says, it's a weird week, guys. I'll put an hour in my diary. If you want to have a chat about all the conflicts and all those sorts of things that are associated with the Queen's death, let's have a chat. As it happens, no one did reach out. So I think it actually wasn't something that people were thinking about as much as I was. But it's really difficult to navigate this space as a black person in the UK when the Queen's dying and everyone's so upset. And I'm like, did you see that diamond, that the biggest diamond in the world that's on her cane? Do you know where that's from? Do you know where she stole that from? And I just can't. I had to sort of just shut up on a few occasions at work because it was like, well, I can either get into a debate or I can just finish my lunch and go. Because do you know what I mean? It was really tricky to navigate, and I think you did a great job, like Rachel said, of navigating that properly. So, Rachel, any other questions from us?
Just on that, I think even when I ask anyone about royals or anything like that, they just said, "Oh yeah, but she's the queen.
She's worked so hard.
She's worked so hard. She's reigned for like what 70 years plus, or I don't know. To be honest, I don't know the figure, but what has she done? You can't give me answers.
We're gonna get a whole heap of comments.
She's the queen. She's the queen. But I think it's sort of forced upon you, I guess. But I try not to. Like, you can't pressure me to do anything. Like,
your kids, one of your kids at school, right?
Yeah.
Did he come back after the Queen's passing with any new facts about the Queen?
He didn't. But one thing that annoys me is that he knows her picture, because we had the whole what was it, Jubilee? Was that this?
Jubilee.
This
year, a couple months ago.
Because of all that,
love extra day holiday.
Yeah, so he knows all about it. And that like I was saying to my wife the other day, like that annoys me. It's like, why does he know the face of this woman? You know, but I'm probably sure he doesn't. Does he know the face of, I don't know, Nelson Mandela? Probably not. Not that he's like our king or something. Like, it just doesn't sit right with me. And like, when I was dropping him off and the nursery is all my youngest, like pictures of the Queen and all this sort of stuff. Are you ready? Okay. Sorry.
All good.
Yes, so no new facts, but he certainly is aware of the what the Queen looks like and stuff. So again, another one of my to-do lists, like must unpack the royal family and start getting him some familiarity with people in our history that
for real.
Well, so
sorry
about that. That was just my wife there, just alerting me that the boys are ready to go to sleep. This is my life.
So there we have it. That is the Mindful Black Dad on the Aki and Saltfish Digital Network. Before our friends die, Rachel, what did you think?
I think it's one of the best combos we've had since,
Yeah, man.
It was just proper opening and all the stuff that we talked about. It was really good, because we were sort of on the is it weird same boat, like it's like same culture, similarities. We've all been through it, I guess. But yeah, it was a very good combo, man.
Did it influence any of your thoughts, feelings about potential parenthood for you?
It's going to be a weird one, man. That's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just going to be a learning curve. And I did. What did I say? I didn't say beat up, innit? I said, what did I say? Beat up kids. I didn't say that. I didn't mean it like that. If you try and cancel me, yeah. But yeah,
it's got the left loaded.
Yeah, I'm right-handed. This is the joke part, but I mean, yeah, man. How about yourself?
For me, yeah, it was a really interesting conversation. Like I've always been interested in, like I've always been, not always, but particularly recently, I've been aware of who and what I am in society. And
I think we both have, and we've been. I think me and you, well, probably we met in year 9, didn't we?
Yeah.
I think we clicked and we knew about everything pretty much, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had similar things that not a lot of people knew.
Nah.
True, isn't it?
I think so.
I deeped it just now,
And it's one of them things where, like, I want to make sure my children are completely aware as well of who and what they are and where they are based in society. So with that in mind, hopefully you've learned a lot from this conversation. I've been Kavan.
I've been Rash.
This has been Before Our Friends Die on the akhi&saltfish Digital Network. If you want to get in touch with us and leave us any comments, please do visit at Before Our Friends Die pod on Instagram or at akhi&saltfish on Instagram and Twitter. akhi&saltfish@gmail.com. You can get in touch with us, leave us your comments, ask us a few questions, and we'd love to hear from you. Thanks so much to Ellie for joining us. Look out for the Get to Know Ellie episode next week. And follow Ellie on Instagram as well.
Yeah, of course. Mindful Black Dad.
At Mindful Black Dad. Make sure you follow him and get in touch with his content. It's really amazing.
Beautiful. And thank you for your time, Ellie, man.
Appreciate it. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.